We're utilizing the following for the electronic meeting, to provide another means of access, conference calls, and computer audio access. The public has access to contemporaneously listen and necessarily participate in the meeting by dialing toll-free number 844-855-4444, and upon the prompt, enter access code 145672 and push pound. By clicking on the following website address, https://joinfreeconferencecall.com, Milton TA. The online meeting ID is Milton TA. As the board, as the select board has opened the meeting to the public, this service remains as a convenience offered to those who may wish to access the live meeting remotely by phone or computer to enable additional means by which the public may have access to the select board meeting. So it is 6 o'clock. I'll convene the meeting and for a pledge of allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So, up right now is the workshop session for the administration budget proposal. Unfortunately, we're not going to listen to that tonight. Ernie needs a little bit more time. There's a lot to it, and so do you want to talk about, Ernie, right now, when we want to reschedule that? When do you think? And if the board is on board?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to do next, I mean, if you could do a special meeting on a Wednesday, that would be great. That would give me time to put the rest of it together, and we'll be able to take a look at an entire picture. I mean, you know, part of the issue that I'm having is that not looking at the entire budget and knowing that people had come in, you know, above the default budget, is something that I think I'd like to be able to present to you so you can see where the differences in the amounts that you actually have to make up. So if you could do next Wednesday, that would be fantastic. It'd give me the time that I need to put it all together.
Okay. Do you think that would be
Of
possible?
next week. Okay.
Do you think that'd be
So
possible,
the-
Matt?
This Wednesday, day after tomorrow?
No, next Wednesday, a week from, it'd be not this coming Wednesday, but the following Wednesday.
As of right now, yeah.
Okay, all right. So we'll go with that. So under other business, I guess Pat Smith's here. Do you, we can move you right up, so you don't have to sit through all this, Pat. So the floor is yours. He's gonna talk about his budgets.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for moving me to the top of the list tonight. I appreciate that.
No worries.
To start off, just an overview of last Monday, I presented a budget, and I was directed, or it was suggested by the board that you come in at default or under. And I know that my budgets as presented were well over the default, and they wouldn't make the 2% tax cap. So what I had done is I had gone back and reviewed the budgets, and I took the overall number of all three budgets to try to bring the overall number of the three budgets to default or under if I could. So based upon that and getting the direction from the Board of Selectmen to try to be in that ballpark. If you take a look at the handout that I gave you, it shows on the handout for highway, which is the first page, the request that I had for 2021. It shows the default that, and I've come up with the default number based on last year's numbers. That's the default for 2021 with probably some changes here or there. Not concrete, but it's close. And then the one all the way to the right is the adjusted number. So the original request was 719,761. My default is approximately 663,844. I adjusted everything down to 667,165. And what that adjustment reflects is a reduction of the workforce by one position, which is a full-time position, and a reduction in the overtime line by $8,000. So it's approximately $50,000 that I reduced that budget. Now, I just need it to be clear that with this reduction and the way this budget's gonna work, this means that we're gonna have less personnel for plowing. So roads will obviously be priority, and snow cleanup is gonna come when it comes. Which means that we're probably gonna get hammered with calls that sidewalks aren't clean for school children, parking lots downtown aren't cleaned up quick enough. Usually we're on it the next day after the storm. I just don't see us being as quick about things with less people. Because as you'll see, not only the highway budget is gonna reduce that time frame, I'm also gonna reduce manpower in other areas, which will still take away from snow removal and snow plowing. So with my proposals that I have tonight, we'll be down 2 snow plow drivers and snow removal personnel. So we're just not gonna have the staff to get there as quick as normal. So, again, how I got to this point is I had to think about all 3 budgets, and I had to figure out which one that I thought was the most important budget to the taxpayers, which I believe would be the highway budget, because by RSA's I have to maintain a safe travel path, I have to plow snow by RSA's, I have to cut brush, I have to pump out catch basins for the MS4 regulations, I have to do street sweeping, so there's certain things that I have to do. So I tried to keep that budget intact as much as I could, because I think it's the priority budget. I think it should be the #1 budget of the 3 that I proposed to you. I'll be glad to take questions on that one, or I'll move to the next one.
Now, is that with the being down one person? Is that just not hiring someone or not filling a position, or
That's
is?
taking and eliminating a whole position out of the budget.
But that's not laying somebody off.
No,
Okay.
it's the it's the one that I'm not hiring for,
Yep.
but it's removing
That one.
that amount of money
Yep.
from the budget, along with $8,000 of overtime.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm giving, I'm taking out about anywhere from $48,000 to $50,000 out of those 2 lines right there. Some of the stuff in the other lines increased because it had to increase. But this is without totally destroying this budget and getting so bad that I probably wouldn't be able to function. This is where I think I can come to. But we're gonna lack. We're gonna lack in services.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Anything else on that budget?
No, that was it. Thanks.
So if you go to the next page, it's the solid waste budget. And so my proposed budget was $216,503. My default is $211,119. Default last year was just over 205. I think it was 205.5 or something like that. So I adjusted this one to 204,797. That's just a touch under what last year's default was. The highway obviously was a little bit over last year's default. This adjustment is probably one of the bigger adjustments, but also we have RSA's that dictate how we manage trash and what we have to do. So this adjustment is gonna reduce the number of days the transfer station is open to 3 days, which that means we're gonna be open Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. It's also gonna reduce the number of personnel to 3. So we're eliminating the part-time position. And then we just have to reorganize for those 3 days in order to man the transfer station for 3 days, and also have 3 days to be able to haul. So between the truck driver that's there and the supervisor that's there, the 2 of them are gonna have to manage the 3 days to haul all the stuff out to be ready for the next time that the transfer station opens. The other thing that I couldn't change on that was the disposal fees. I showed you the contract on that the last time I was here. I don't have control over the disposal fees. That's what we're gonna pay. This is the best I could do to bring that budget to the default number that was requested. If I keep everything the same, it's not gonna do that. So that's where we had to, reduce. And also, I wanna be sure that I'm transparent in the fact that this adjusted budget also represents, a step increase for the personnel that are there, that have been with us the whole time, that are currently there. So I want that to be clear, that reflects in that adjustment. And I put the solid waste, budget as the secondary, the second most important, budget out of the three that I have. The, government buildings, unless there's questions on solid waste.
No?
The government buildings, I think was probably the least important of the budgets, which took probably one of the biggest hits. My recommended, budget for 21 was 197,354, the default was 193,621. I reduced that down to $170,000. This adjustment reduces personnel by one full-time position and adds a part-time position for 22 weeks at $15. It also returns the maintenance of all cemeteries in the town of Milton back to the cemetery trustees. We will no longer be staffed enough to maintain town properties and cemeteries at the same time. We'll be having one guy full-time, and that's gonna be it. Part-time in the summer if we can pick him. And that's basically the part-time guy's gonna help mow the veterans parks and the dams and do what maintenance on what buildings that we can get done in the summertime, so we've reduced, again, another full-time position. This is another position that we lose from snow plowing and snow cleanup. That one position that I just removed out of government buildings, that person typically got in the skid steer with the snow blower and went out and started snow blowing sidewalks to try to open them up before we could get down to clean up with the rest of the crew. That's not gonna happen now, cause that person's gone. So it'll be parking lots, roads, get our roads taken care of. Then after that, we'll go into snow cleanup, and so it might be a day or two before we start seeing that happen. It's not what I wanted to do, I did stress that the last time I was here. This is my proposal to you, I guess I'm just looking for what you guys wanna do, but we need to be very clear that this reduces a lot of services in town. This is, and there's no way that I can come under this, into that default, within that tax cap, and absorb all that money that I needed to absorb for those raises that can't be put in a default budget. I had to figure out how to come up with $100,000 or close to $100,000. This is the only way I could do it, is to reduce staffing, reduce services, cemeteries, back to the cemetery trustees, we're no longer gonna do that, any of that anymore, and, I mean, if this is what you agree to, and that's what we'll have to do to move forward.
Okay.
Any questions?
On the cemetery maintenance line.
Andy, I'm sorry, I can't hear
Can't hear
you.
me, I'm sorry. On the cemetery maintenance line, now what were you using that line for? Cause I know you moved it into the building.
Okay, that money originally, back when they gave me cemeteries 20 years ago, they wanted to put a little money in that line, which obviously this budget has grown since that time.
Mm-hmm.
And it was in the government buildings maintenance line. Then a budget committee group got together and they said, well, it's not clear that you're doing cemeteries, we need to establish a line. Well, they established a cemetery line and put $5,000 into that line. What makes it difficult to use is it says cemeteries. So I'm doing cemeteries out of full-time line, part-time line, supply line, vehicle fuel line, and equipment maintenance line. And so it's just, it made it hard to use it, so I wanted to move it back into government buildings maintenance line so that I could use it where I need to use it, instead of it sitting there looking like I'm not using it at all. cause there's been times where that maintenance line was so close to being overspent, that 5,000 would've been nice to be in that line at the end of the year to do other things if we needed to. You know, for last year, we had a furnace at the library that we did, and we ended up taking it out of the budget, cause we encumbered the money and held back enough to be able to pay for it out of the budget, but these are things that you don't plan for, you don't see, and having that money there at the end of the year, whether you use it or not, is good just in case, because you don't fire up your furnaces until, you know, November. And in this building here, we know that we have a furnace down there that it's not new, and it's gonna need repair pretty soon. You're looking at another $15,000-$20,000 by the time you get done.
What's this?
Huh?
What building you talking about?
This one.
Yeah. Okay.
So I don't know what else to do. I can't come in any
Alright.
other way that I can see.
Anybody have any questions?
No, I thank you
And I
for
know that, you know,
reducing that.
I mean, I'm a realist. I know that a big budget's not gonna pass, and it's not gonna stay within that warrant article, so, to get where you guys want me to be, this is what I have to propose.
Okay. We'll take it under advisement. And,
Okay? Thank you.
all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Request from the VFW veterans of the foreign wars to resume monthly meetings in the Emma Ramsey Center. So really what they're requesting for, we got an email, Ernie, as we discussed, we'd like to resume the VFW meeting in the Emma Ramsey Center. We meet for about an hour on the fourth Monday of the fourth of the month at 7 p.m. For August. That would be the 24th. This has been a long-standing arrangement. We generally have 8 to 10 members and have no issues with distancing and wearing masks. So really what they're looking for is just a blessing for them to resume their meetings downstairs. So for me, as long as they follow the guidelines that the town hall has in place, I'm fine with it. And we'll just let you know, the cleaning person who cleans, you know, that they've been used the night before, so you can go down and fog it. But I'm fine with them using it.
Yeah. Do we need a motion or?
Well,
Do you
is
need
it,
a motion?
well, yeah, is it open? Is it open to the groups that have used it before, or what's the status on that?
I would take that on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah.
Because, you know, some of them are gonna be different activities. There's gonna be more physical activity and so on and so forth with some of them than others. You know, with these, I did talk to, Peter, you know, about, wearing masks and socially distancing, and he said that they got absolutely no problem, as, said in the email, so. I mean, if somebody else comes forward again, I think we'd have to take that on a case-by-case basis, especially the ones where there's lots of, you know, a lot of activity.
Yep. And I agree. You know, if you have, you know, if you wanna bring something, to the table for the selectmen, you know, whatever you have in mind, you know, at the time, please do so. So,
Okay.
yeah. All right. So, yeah, just, make a motion if you wanna make a motion, Matt.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to allow the VFW to continue using or start back up using the Emma Ramsey Center.
I'll
For the-
second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so up next is the request for the expenditure from the Town Technology Fund for a new circulation desk computer, Milton Free Public Library, Betsy Baker.
So this is the, second year that I've asked for this money out of the budget. And, as we discussed, that a more appropriate way is to take it out of the, technology CRF.
Mhm.
So, I have contacted Mayran Computers. He does all of our maintenance for free, and any time that I've gotten, quotes from different, he's always been the lowest. And he also gave us a free Wi-Fi extender recently. So anyway, he, is going to, install a new Circ Desk computer for $1,100, and we're actually going to keep the other one, and I'll be using that at a distance, for some of my, work. The computer that we have right now, 4 people are using, often, this trying to, like, skip back and forth. It is 9 years old.
Mhm.
It's very slow and sluggish because there's a lot on it.
Okay.
And so, I would like to take 1,100 out of the CRF for this computer.
Okay. All right, well, I'm fine with it, 'cause that's why, it's what the town, put it there for. Do you guys have any questions for Betsy?
Nope. You got 8 years out of the other one? That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead,
Just so
Ern.
you know, there's slightly over $20,000 in that fund.
Yeah, that was gonna be my next
Oh.
question, so, all right. You all set, Matt?
Yep.
Okay. Can I just have a motion to request the 1,100?
I'll make a motion to request, the $1,100 for the town technology CRF for the circulation desk computer.
Did you change that to approve?
I approve.
Okay.
Thank you.
I will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
There you go, Betsy.
Thank you.
Thank you. So up next is wastewater consultant price and proposals and considerations, and possibly awarding a contract. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Remember, we had the meeting with the consultants. I hope that Selectmen got a lot of good information out of that. You were able to prioritize, the ranking at the time, but you couldn't look at the cost proposals themselves in order to be in compliance with New Hampshire DES protocol and all that stuff for getting future money. So anyway, the town administrator and I opened proposals up on August 6th, and I have them listed there as you can see. DuBois and King was, what, 24,000. Underwood was 54,300, and Wright Pierce broke it out into 2 phases, just the way they did it. 13,200 for the phase 1, which is basically getting that report to DES relative to the groundwater contaminants and what we're gonna do about it, and the liners and that sort of thing. So, and then 55,600 for phase 2, which I think is more towards the total nitrogen permit and all those future long-term things that are gonna be coming due onto the town. So that's what the results were. Just to refresh your memory, we're gonna be paying for this out of the wastewater capital reserve fund. There's like $500,000 in the fund, so there's sufficient amount of money to pay for that. And whichever one of these you select, hopefully you'll select one tonight, there's a good probability, what New Hampshire DES has done in the past in these engineering proposals is that they've reimbursed the towns for these studies. It's just something that they've done either through a grant or principal forgiveness, or something that they've done. So when we
when they put out their request for expenditures for next year, we'll put this on that list with any other funds that we've had to expend out of that. So there's a good chance, I can't give you a 100% guarantee, because something could change by then, but there's a high probability, given that you've never borrowed money from DES before, and your demographics, that you probably got a good chance of getting that money returned to you, so there's no cost to the town to at least get this study done. But again, I can't guarantee you that that's gonna happen. So I think, given the cost of the proposals, I did put a note in there that I thought that, I'm not quite sure why DuBois and King, I thought they undershot the cost there, some. My experience, a couple times I've done this, for the town of Farmington, we did one for the water, and we did one with the more recent wastewater project. $50,000, $60,000 is more typical of these studies, so I don't know why DuBois and King was so low. But I think that it clearly didn't grasp the workload, the requirements, and that sort of thing from what they were doing. So to me, it's between Underwood and Wright Pierce. I think the board voted to have Wright Pierce be the number one in the Underwood number two, and then DuBois and King number three in terms of the selection process. I would recommend you to go with Wright Pierce, even though their pricing is a little bit higher, given the fact that I'm pretty sure you'll get your money reimbursed, and also the fact that they're really skilled at acquiring funds for the town. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised with them working on that end of the thing when we get to that point. They're very aggressive. I talked to the guy one of the guys that was sitting here, actually, Mike. He called me the other day, wanted to know what the process was, and I told him that we were, meeting tonight and so forth. He said he was already looking at some funding for the town out in the near future, some ideas that he was having. So I would recommend to the board that you go with Wright Pierce. They were selected number one on their abilities and their initial meeting with the board, and I think their costs are within reason. I did note at the very end that if the board wanted to, you can negotiate this contract or any of these contracts with these firms. So if you wanted to talk to Wright Pierce, you could certainly have them come in and say, what's in your cost, what can we do to trim that type of thing, if you wish to. That's entirely up to you, and they'd be more than willing to do that. I'm sure Underwood would too. So either way, you can either get, hopefully you'll decide tonight with a go-ahead so we can get this study going. Nobody's asked me about it yet, but they will eventually. We need to press on and make some decisions. So, but I recommend we go with Wright Pierce tonight if you want to, and if you want to bring them in for a revised proposal cost, that's up to you. So, I think their cost is close to where it probably should be for this type of this type of study. So that's my recommendation as well.
Now, my only thing is, with Wright Pierce for the phase one, I don't, why they did it like that, phase one, phase two. I mean, is Underwood under their 54,300? I mean, they're gonna also send, if they were chosen, they were also gonna send a letter to DES on what we were gonna move forward with down.
They all were. Yeah.
They all were.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's the number one priority, is get some sort of a letter response to DES. Now, that's gonna take a while. We've got some initial work to do. We need to, take a look at the liner, take a look at some of the sludge and determine whether that's a direction we're headed in, or is it gonna be, a more cut and dry thing. I would think that their first letter is probably gonna be, whoever it is, we just got hired, we need some time to evaluate the thing. We're gonna be moving forward with this, we haven't forgotten you type thing, and, give us a couple of months to look at the data and do the analysis, and we'll respond to you in a timely fashion down the road in a couple of months. but, they're all gonna have to make that initial, response to the DES, so.
No, I mean, I take your opinion, and it's very valid. I mean, this is your line of work. You know what's best down there. It's just, 13,000 just for phase one. I don't know what their mindset was when they, cause they're right with Underwood on the, on doing phase two. It's just, they're just charging 13,000 for what Underwood is gonna do it for. So, I mean, I'd like to talk to them. I mean, I don't know what the rest of the board, I mean, this money, we have the money set aside, on a capital reserve fund. I understand all that, but still, this is money that is gonna be needed for that project, or a project coming forward. So every penny I suppose we could save going down, is every penny that's in our,
Yeah.
so that's just where I'm at with it. I don't know how the rest of the board feels.
Did they say what phase one?
It didn't
Was?
spell it out, it just
Yeah.
said phase one. I haven't asked them, 'cause I didn't wanna, monkey with the process, so to speak. I don't
Mhm.
have any favorability, issues, that sort of thing, so no, it was just said basically, just basically like it was phase one and phase two. But I'm assuming that phase one is initially like I said, is just, writing a letter to DES, taking a look at all the, because typically these companies come in, they look at 10 years worth of lab data, just to get a historical perspective of what's going on in the facility, look around the facility, look at the state of the facility, the buildings, the material, the equipment and all these other things. They're gonna look at the liners and the sludge and and take all the stuff and put it into some sort of a report and a recommendation for the board. And once that's done, then they'll move that on to DES and say, this is what the recommendation is. It may be a short-term recommendation, and there may be a longer-term recommendation. If they're looking at a liner overhaul, that type of thing, that might have to wait until next year. I mean, you gotta put a contract out for it. You gotta, do all the initial work to put the specs together, get the bidding done, all this other stuff. So the chances are this is a project that's gonna go on until 2021. So.
Mhm. I mean, if I'm fine with Wright Pierce, I just would like to see if they could trim down phase one for me. I mean, and I don't wanna kick the can down the road, cause I know this is very, very important.
Yeah.
But, it just seems to me, phase one, they're charging $13,000 for, yeah, I'd like to see if they could trim that down.
So, do you want me to ask them to send me something, or send Ernie something that defines what phase one is and phase two, how they broke out their costs, so we understand what each phase is and what the cost is, and then, they could actually, if you want to, they could actually bring that, they could send it to us, so we have it ahead of time, so we can all look at it. But if you want one of them to come in to, if you're in the mood and you still wanna negotiate a cost, they could have that in front of them, so you'd be looking at what they're looking at in terms of how they structured their cost and what work effort that they're gonna put out for that money. And then you may say, well, maybe we can restructure it somehow, maybe we can trim off, some things and reduce their cost. But at least you can talk to somebody about it and work out a contract that you think is fair and reasonable for the town, so. I wish I could say 100% you get your money back, but I can't, cause the DES changes sometimes, but
Mhm.
there's, again, a high probability that you're gonna get, whatever your cost ends up being, you're gonna get it back from DES up
Mhm.
front.
Yeah, no, I
And
mean.
then whatever the liner costs are for repairs, if we take sludge out, if something happens with the total nitrogen permit, and we have to expend some money looking at that part of it, those would probably not be forgiven. Those would be a loan or a grant that you'd be looking
Sure.
to work with, but this
Right.
initial study, you're gonna get reimbursed for.
Right. No, that'd be great if it was in writing, but it's, you know.
It isn't.
No, I know. I don't know how the rest of the board feels.
I'd like to see them break it down, send it to us, and then have them come in and break it down Barney style, and explain it to us and say, this is what we're gonna do, and then if there's a potential to negotiate and bring the cost down a little bit, that's what I'd like to see.
You got it?
And if they wanna do this, I know we're gonna be meeting next Wednesday. If that's something they could correspond, and, cause they're not gonna be here that long. If that's up to you though, Ronnie,
Oh, we can do that.
you know,
That's next,
not
The
this
second.
coming Wednesday, but the following Wednesday.
Second.
Yeah.
okay. Alright, okay, well, I won't tell anybody what, that has been awarded yet, we're still in negotiations basically, and I'll let DES know that we're still in negotiations. We're working on,
Yeah.
making the selection and
Yeah.
that sort of thing,
Yeah,
so.
we're moving forward here,
Yeah,
so,
okay, sounds good,
yeah.
okay,
Thank you, Dale.
alright.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you very
Dale.
much, have a good evening.
Yeah, you
too.
too. So, other business that, may become, before the board. Is anybody, I mean, we are gonna have, selectmen's comments and Ernie, town administrative comments. They're just not down here? Or is it on the second page, or?
No, I actually put this agenda together quickly.
Yeah, no worries. No, I didn't know if there's a, nope, so, any other business that may become, before the board? Does anybody have anything?
When do we wanna discuss masks?
Right now's a good time.
Okay.
So, go for it, Matt. You-
Well, I mean, I'd like to see the mask become a recommendation instead of a requirement, except when 6 feet is not permissible, I guess. Would probably be the correct terminology for it.
Okay.
I agree, and that's what's stated from the state's recommendation. So just changing from required to recommend to wear a mask in the building, especially where 6 feet social distancing is not permissible. Meetings where 6 feet distancing is permitted, employees in public may choose to wear a mask if they desire. I think that, there's a lot of, for the employees too, I mean, there's the plexiglass, I think they're, if they wanna choose to wear it, they can. It makes it difficult, especially if we're, obviously if we're close and we can't have that distance.
Right.
Wearing a mask is obviously
Mhm.
very appropriate to do that.
For me, I think we should leave things the way they are at the town hall for now. I don't know how long this is gonna go on for, but it's hard to talk with them on, but, this is kinda like the new norm, and we have to think about the people who work in this building, okay? They come in here to work, and if they feel, that masks, are just recommended and not required, it's a problem for them. I know it's a problem for one of our staff here, and, I hate to lose her. And for right now, I just feel that we should just leave town hall the way it is. Ernie put a lot of work into getting these meetings going to the public, and we should just keep things the way they are, and just follow it. Let's see what happens in a month. But for right now, I don't think we should make it, I think it should be required and not recommended. And that's just listening to some of the people that work here. I mean, they have their own families they have to go home to that we have to think about. We're only in the building, a couple times a week or whatever. They're here 40 hours. And so I just think that for now we should just leave the masks as Ernie has implemented for using the town hall. That's where I'm at. Like I said, we're not here like they are. They're here
So when
40 hours.
during the day, I mean, are there a lot of people in the hall, or are they lining up inside? Are they still lining up outside?
Most of there's not really much of a line anymore.
That's good.
You don't have it that much. And when there is, they have a choice now to take a number and come in. So we haven't really had much. I think we'll know in the next week what it's like at the end of the month, at the beginning of the month. So that's when usually the car registration is
Mhm.
the heaviest.
Like I said, I mean, for me, it would just be easier just to leave it is the way it is. That way people know what's expected. Like I said, who knows how long this is gonna go on for, it's not gonna go on for forever, of course. And, this is really not just about us. This is about, the employees that work in this building and their immediate family. And, for us to move masks around where we're not even in this building that much, I think it would be reckless. So I just think that we should just leave it the way it is for now and deal with it for the couple hours that we're here. And we'll just play it, see what happens, follow each selectmen's meeting, I guess, just see how things are going. Yeah, go ahead.
Question, what's gonna be the protocol for voting? Because that's what's gonna come up, is the mask requirement for voting.
Yeah.
Is that gonna change?
Well, it's required, it's
recommended.
Mm-hmm.
it's recommended, not required. But there's gonna be masks there.
Right, what I'm asking is if you guys decide one way or the other, if you say, okay, we're not gonna make mask adjustment, we're gonna
Well-
make mask recommended but not mandatory. Right now it's mandatory.
Right.
If you make it just recommended, but you're gonna make it mandatory for voting, that's what I'm saying, you might get into a sticky.
Well, we're in charge of this building, okay? So,
Right, but it's a public building.
right, but we're,
It's gonna be at the school.
Yeah.
They have changed it, I hadn't heard that.
yeah,
that was
I'm gonna make that announcement.
Okay.
But, so,
So what's the policy at the school, as a building?
I'm sure the moderator has got that all fine-tuned. If you wanna say something, Ernie,
Well,
go
I
ahead.
just, there was a meeting that we had with, Chris Jacobs and the board, so they've got, you can't make it mandatory for the voting. I mean, you can't tell someone they can't vote if they're not gonna wear the mask, so what moderator Jacobs has done is set it up so that people who aren't gonna wear a mask would go someplace separate to vote. So that's how it's gonna be handled. I don't have all the details. He actually did give us a diagram as to how they're gonna set it up and everything, and he did
Yeah,
describe.
I heard rumors to that effect.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
think the problem's just gonna be, you're just gonna have to be careful with what you say can and will be done, just because now there's starting to become a lot of problems. For example, like when Walmart was, no, you don't have to wear a mask. Now, they don't have to let you in if you won't wear a mask. If you say you have a medical issue, they can, by law, they can ask you, but by law, you don't have to tell them, but then they don't have to serve you. Then now the governor just opened capacity for restaurants to 100%. Servers have to wear masks.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's where I'm at with it.
And just be really careful.
I just think that we should just leave it alone for now, and,
Have there been people that came in here without one?
We've had, I think, one incident that I know of, that I know of where somebody came in without the mask and, and that was, when they, when we said or instructed people if that happens again, call the police department, don't try to deal with it on your own. But there's only been one incident that I'm aware of where someone came in and when they came in, they had the mask. When they were here, they removed it and refused to put it back on.
So Ernie, you're here every day. What are your thoughts on the mask? Your feelings?
Well, I mean, personal feelings are different than feelings, as the town administrator or an employer. I mean, you do have to safeguard your employees. I mean, is there a large incident of COVID-19 in Milton? No. In New Hampshire? No, not really. Part of that's probably just because there's been such a good job done generally. Because even if you go to a supermarket, I mean, where I've been and everything and around here, because my mom lives in Rochester, so I am out in this area a lot, I hardly see, there aren't a lot of people that aren't wearing masks. I mean, you have a few. So, but I mean, as far as employees are concerned, I want people to feel comfortable enough to continue working here. And, because we don't need any fewer people here, that's for sure. So that's, and the other part of it is just the safety standpoint, for safeguarding your employees. I mean, that's really where I'm coming from with it. So, I mean, I know that there is some level of discomfort here with it, and, I just don't want to exacerbate that, that's all. But there's not one person at that table who's incorrect about what you could allow and what you couldn't allow, so.
but I certainly don't wanna sit here and make that, decision for the employee. I'm not comfortable, and what I am comfortable, doing is, I'm not in the town hall that much. I mean, I come in to do my business with you and whatever, sign some stuff, whatever. I'm not in here 40 hours a week, so, for me, it's not that big of a deal to come in, wear a mask, I'm in here for, whatever, half hour, hours, whatever, I'm on my way. But, for the people who have to work here all day, that's their security. So, for me, I just think that we should just leave it and revisit it each selectmen's meeting or once a month or whatever, until, they get a vaccine or whatever.
So are you gonna be required to have a vaccine to come in, or are we gonna wear a
No,
mask for the rest of our lives?
I mean,
I mean,
this isn't gonna go on forever, I mean, so
Well,
let's just,
we don't know, but we have to make a decision for today, and if,
Okay, so
I'm
my
going
my
according to, we
decision-
just heard about, what the state's recommending.
Okay.
I think that there's a lot of safety measures that have been made. People are very aware, if they need to wear a mask, they should wear a mask. You have plexiglass placed up for the employees, they're wearing a mask. The mask protects you, just like a vaccine would protect you.
Mhm.
And if
Well,
you're 6 feet,
actually, the mask is
Actually,
for
it's the other way.
people.
no, it's not.
Well, it's both ways, but it's also, if I cough right now, my spittle isn't going right at you because my mouth is.
I'm not gonna get into the scientific stuff. I'm just saying that it should be a recommendation, because some people do not feel that, their, rights to have not wearing a mask is something that they choose to do. I don't know. I don't know how much traffic is in here. I don't think there's a lot, because if there are a lot of people, they're outside. I think the chances of anybody spitting or coughing on someone is very, very slim, if we're keeping our distance from each other. Obviously, if we're very close, yes, we should be wearing a mask. If we're coming through a crowd, we should wear a mask.
And we also have senior citizens coming through, and they're the most vulnerable in this.
But if they're already behind a plexi,
Well, I'm not talking about the employees, I'm talking about if you've got a senior citizen who's coming in to register their car, and right behind them is somebody who isn't wearing a mask.
but they're not coming right behind each other, is that right? I mean, they're waiting outside. I don't know how that's gonna work when it gets cold.
It's not, it won't work.
So, I mean, maybe that's the other thing you gotta start thinking about, but if everybody's waiting outside and it's a one-person entrance, I don't see how anybody's gonna be coughing on the other person. But I'm, you know,
Think of it this way, if you've only had one person, one instance of somebody refusing, okay?
mhm.
I don't wanna wear this, I don't wanna have to go wear it into a store. When it was not mandatory, I did not wear it, my choice.
And I did, my
Okay,
choice.
Your choice.
Mhm.
Now that they've made it mandatory, does that mean I'm gonna refuse to go grocery shopping and not go? No, I respect that it's a rule, it's not a law,
Right.
it's a rule.
Yep.
So, like Andy's saying, and I'm not agreeing with the mask issue one way or another, as just a rule issue. Andy's basically saying, make it a rule. We've made it a rule, this is the rule. If you guys wanna change the rule, then change the rule. But there's 3 of you, so all 3 of you get a vote. So, based on Ernie's recommendations, you have to decide whether to keep the rule as is and reevaluate it whenever, or to change the rule. That's the issue, not the mask.
Okay, so I'll just bring it back here, thank you. Now, I'll make a motion just to leave, leave the way the town hall is running, that, the way that Ernie has proposed, and, to revisit it, the next selectmen's meeting. That's my motion. Do we have any other, motions or, 'cause like I said, this isn't about me, it's about the people that work here, and their safety, so, for me, actually, I don't even really know why we're talking about this, because, you know, we're in a pandemic, and if we're thinking about, taking masks and just, making them a requirement, and not, not a, I just don't know why this is even on the table, so, but that's my motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it, but Ernie, would you mind asking the employees how they would feel about it, and then revisit it in the month, please?
Okay.
So I would
All in
second
favor?
that.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, any other business?
Just,
Okay.
was that an affirmative from Fogden, or was that a nay? from you?
It's a nay for me.
Okay. I
Okay.
just didn't know if Ernie heard you.
All right, so up next, can we have the, Ernie, do you have any, reports from the town administrator?
No, just to let you know, we do get the ticket counter installed out there, and, that is there, it works, it's been used a few times. When we've had people, maybe 4 or 5 deep, and it does work well once everybody figure out how to use it. It's pretty simple, actually. So thank you for delaying, the budget thing until next Wednesday. We'll try trying to get all these contracts together and ensure we've got the right pricing and so forth in place, for these things. And also, you know, now that Pat has come back and brought these larger budgets in, you know, under the default budget, actually by the three of them net out to about, I think it was $26,000 or $28,000 less than, but that's also taking into account, you know, the wages and so forth that, have been, awarded over the past couple of years, so that's really good. I mean, there's still a few areas that have to be taken care of with that, and, I'll have the exact shortfall for you then. And it'll be better for you because I will have all the numbers together, so you'll actually be able to look at it as a whole, as opposed to trying to remember what this was and what that was, and trying to, you know, understand what you're dealing with. I'll have everything together. And then the budget committee, and the selectmen were supposed to meet jointly, on the, on either the 12th or the 19th. And that's something, you know, because people wanna get the budgets a couple of weeks prior to that meeting. I think that's something we'll have to revisit, when we get there.
Okay. All right.
No, Ernie, are the other two, big departments gonna work on trimming their budgets as well, such as highway did?
Well, part of, yeah, a couple of things on that too. I mean, I think it behooves you to say that that's what you want to happen at this point. Because I mean, we've had them come in, and make presentations. Let's see, Chief Krause, of course, I think his was over $3,100 over, the fall, but I actually think that, if we add that, I'm not sure, I'll have to look at his default numbers, but, I think you're gonna have to direct everybody to pull any percentages out, and I'll do that, but I mean, I just wanna get your concurrence with it. Any percentage increases that aren't covered by an approved wage scale, out so that they can be, you know, included in with the employee retention plan. Because that's really what you wanna try to do, is that's gonna be a plan that would be considered separately in a separate warrant article. Because the only way you're gonna be able to hit a reset button here is to get in at below the default budget, get a budget passed, and, you know, deal with whatever, you know, service cuts that you have to make that happen. And they really should be shared as much as you can, not just having them come out of, one department. And at that point, you know, once we, are able to see everything, then you can start building back up. But the only way you're gonna get those past decisions taken care of and you know, made legitimate is by getting an actual budget passed, not a default budget. Because as long as you continue to move forward into the future with default budgets, it's just gonna, that amount is gonna continue to dog the budget and you won't be able to get anything done. So it's really, unfortunately, just years and years and years of default budgets over the past decade or even greater have caught up to the point where, you know, you really are gonna have to, I mean, my analogy is rebooting. And I think that's what this is.
Okay. Is that something that you wanna recommend, Matt?
Yeah, I'd like to have Ernie, take care of that. Thank you.
And the other question too, in March you had, put a freeze on some, filling some of these positions and, at this point, for the rest of the year until we get to the end, I assume you'll wanna continue that freeze. This is a question coming from the chief specifically.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a question to all of you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I mean, I don't think there's nothing that we can do, but other than just move forward with what we, what we did at the beginning of the year. So, the town passed this tax cap and, we have to abide by it, and if it comes down to, losing some services or trimming out some services, it's what it comes to. 'Cause there's no way that we can, we can do it without doing that, so, yeah, we'll just have to continue what we had at the beginning of the year, so, yeah. Are you all set with that, Claudine?
Yes, I think that also we need to start, kind of assessing or prioritizing our departments. What is most essential right now, considering what's going on? So if we can start thinking about that,
Yeah,
that
I
might be
mean,
another
and
opportunity
and-
to kind of help with this reset, apparently.
yeah.
There might be somewhere that we can save on, especially with COVID, if we can't do certain things and have certain activities or events, that might be an area where we're gonna have to take advantage of that. If you can't have it, don't budget it.
Yeah,
So that's something to think about.
okay. Yeah, well, we'll be able to look at that further as we
Right,
get into
I'm just
the-
saying it out loud, just as
Sure.
a thought process,
Okay. Okay, do you have anything else, Ernie? Okay, Selectmen's comments? Do you have anything, Claudine?
Nope. I don't have any other comments.
Matt?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay, I just have, one thing, well, a couple of things, actually. So Karen Brown got a hold of me today. She wants to, hire, this particular person, for the maintenance of the beach, because, the person that's down there, can only fulfill so many hours. And they need, the beach, still needs to be, maintained. So she's just looking to hire this particular person, I can't say their name, but, for 15 hours a week, because the person that's down there can only do it 15 hours, and, the beach is still open. And, this is paid through the beach fund anyways, it's, so I just need, I'll make a motion to hire this person, they got background and everything else all done, for the same rate of pay that the person that's working down there.
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay, thank you. And the other thing I have, I just wanted.
Do we need to vote on that, though?
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry, so can I, I'll make a, yeah, go ahead, Matt.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, I'm sorry.
That's
I
okay.
just got miscombobulated there for a second. So, I do wanna read one thing here, that I was reading off of. This is kind of important, and then I got one other thing. Please be advised that the herbicide treatment schedule for the Milton 3 ponds has been changed. Areas in Maine scheduled for treatment tomorrow, Tuesday, August 25th, will remain on schedule. However, the portion of the ponds in New Hampshire was scheduled for tomorrow will now be treated on Wednesday. So they're moving some of the treated areas till Wednesday, August 26th. So I just thought that, it'd be nice to throw that out there to people who live around the pond, that they're just moving it out one day, on the New Hampshire side. In Maine, they're gonna keep it the same day tomorrow, so, and then, Ernie, do you have the, thing from Chris? I apologize.
On
This one?
Okay, thank you, Claudine, thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah, so, location for the September 8th primary election, Board of Selectmen pursuant to the RSA, 658:9. It is the selectmen's responsibility to provide a suitable place in which to hold state elections, and shall see that the same is warmed, lighted, and furnished with proper supplies and conveniences. During the last election, it was discussed with the selectmen to present to see if the coming in the November presidential election could be moved to Newt High School. On that day, the request was presented verbally to Doug Shute and Earl Sussman. The Milton School Board later met and approved our use of the school and gym on these dates. Therefore, the election will be held September 8th and November 3rd, 2020 at the Newt High School, and will be set up within the gymnasium. The polling hours are the same, with the opening at 8 o'clock and closing at 7. Would you please announce this information at your upcoming meetings, post it at the town websites, at the post office, and outside message boards, and if there's any other means or methods that you feel that is warranted. To address social distancing and concerns, I have already presented to the Highway Department a new election layout through the town office, and they will respond back with any questions provided. So, moving forward, even with the town election in March, it's gonna be at the high school moving forward. So it's good news, really. A lot of people wanted to see it there, and so, thank you, Chris, for taking the initiative and talking to Doug, and thank you, Doug Shute, and the rest of the school board for allowing the town to have the elections at the school. So that's where that's at.
We got about 565 White Mountain Highway.
Okay, that's
That's right in front of you there. I just put a new one up there.
okay.
I can take that letter back if you don't
Okay,
mind
yeah,
from
no
Chris. Thank you.
worries. Okay, yeah, so, the town of Milton, so we're looking to, 565 White Mountain Highway, tax map 42 lot 117, the owner is the town of Milton, and, so we're looking to put out a silent bid, Ernie?
It's a sealed.
A seal bid, yeah, and, on that tax deeded property, it's the one beside Cumberland Farms, and so, things have been laid out, conditions of the sales, do you want me to read all this?
No.
Okay.
Just, getting your concurrence, you probably would have to push the date back another week from or maybe even 2 from September 17th, but just to explain, this is a legal work, that I used when I was in Raymond, and actually, when I was there, we had the same, Carrie at the time, Carrie Ann Roman worked for, Mission Municipal Group, and, she was the one who helped us put these together. So these are, this is a, bid document that, will be published to ask for sealed bids for whatever the date is that you finally land on. I had September 17th they were due, but that's just right around the corner, so it's probably too quick. But that will be free and clear as of August 27th due sale. So the thing that's a little bit different with this one is that if you look at where it says conditions of sale, I mean, the first page talks about, describes the property and so forth, and gives you what the assessed value is now, but of course, that's not accurate. And once it became tax deeded, they stopped actually updating anything on that, but, that's what it shows in the tax card, $144,000. And, it gives dates and everything and where, good things are due. For instance, it says, any questions with respect to the invitation must be received in writing by mail, fax, or email no later than noon on September 3rd, but again, to push everything out another couple of weeks, it'll be a little bit later. Then Going to the second page, I mean, the thing where it says conditions of sale, what it talks about here that's a little bit different is it gives, you know, a deadline, for demolishing the structure. You know, it gives 45 days for them from the recording of the deed to sale to come in and pull a demolition permit, and then 1 year from the date of the demolition permit to complete all demolition, removal of debris, and general cleanup of the parcel. And then, number 10, successful bidder will provide a performance bond, letter of credit, or cash deposit in the amount of $50,000. This is at the beginning. That can be called by the town of Milton in the event that the demolition and cleanup is not completed as described in item 9. It should say it's not. So, you know, that's given the town a little bit of protection.
And this has all been reviewed by town council?
Yes.
Yeah, my only thing, is, you know, the minimum bid, I don't think they should be one, cause we're gonna be all right with the, with number 10. You know, so,
Yeah, so that can be taken right out.
yeah, that's my only personal opinion, but if you guys want a minimum bid, you know, that we can talk about it, but I just don't think that there should be a minimum bid for that place. I mean, because the assessed value is not even accurate. I mean, because of, you know, the way it's in, the condition it's in, so.
So how does that reflect on 10 if there's no minimum bid? If the cash deposit or credit,
Yeah, so they have to put a
And the amount.
$50,000,
is that for the bid?
That's to protect the town. So the town did receive a couple of bids to demolish the building,
Mm-hmm.
and they were less than that by about 10,000 or so.
Mhm.
So what that's there to do is to protect the town, you know, in case that they don't get property cleaned up and
I
taken
see.
care of within that 1 year, then the town can call that performance bond or use the, or letter of credit
Okay.
or the cash to make sure it gets torn down and made safe.
But somebody could bid $1 and you could award it, but they'd still have to, they would only forfeit the 50,000 in a year. So are you gonna include that in your bid? Are you gonna require them to be included in the bid?
The 50,000?
50,000?
Right.
well, no,
Well,
the,
it'll be at closing, they would have to either give us the performance bond,
Oh, sorry.
or the cash, or the letter of credit.
Right, but you're stating that it's gonna be all sealed bids. So if somebody puts in a bid for $1, are you gonna say, well, that's not a bid because the bid has to be 50,000 plus $1?
No, their bid is $1, but they'll have to give the $50,000 cash deposit, performance bond, or letter of credit in addition to that.
In addition to their bid?
Right.
yeah, exactly.
And do they get that back after they've done it properly, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's kinda how the bonds work, but, you know, it's just to really
Like
protect,
escrow.
it's really just to
Yeah.
protect the town, you know, so.
I would just make sure that that's a little more clear, I think. I think it's a little confusing, that's all. But I'm fine with that. Anybody that can just take care of that building would be great.
Yeah, no, I mean, we had to jump through some hoops and there was some issues, but we got through it and, you know, it's taken some time, but, now we're at the point that we can move forward with unloading it, so. And there is some other properties too that we're gonna look at. It's just Ernie had time to get this one done for this meeting, so. You have any questions, Matt?
Is there, I'm sorry, is there any, taxes too that is required of them, or we're just gonna wash that out and start all over again?
Yep, that's the way it works.
Okay,
So, other than just my issue is just the minimum bid, I don't think they should be a minimum bid. I don't, what do you think, Matt?
No, get rid of it.
Yeah.
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 It's gonna
So you
cost
can
them to
take-
get rid of it, so.
You can take the minimum bid out, okay? And, yeah, you never know, if there's people out there that you would be surprised what they can do with a building like that. You might not think so, but, hey, look at the fire station.
Exactly.
Anyways, so we'll move all those dates up 2 weeks. So we'll move all those up in 2 weeks, all the,
Yeah, I'll add 2 weeks to that.
okay,
So just to clarify, because, you know, what it does ask for on the first page is it does ask each bidder to note what their intended use of the property is. But this makes the assumption, you know, that it is, or not the assumption, it says that it is going to be torn down, what's there now. So the way this is written now, there's not really a choice to that. It has to be torn down, and if they're gonna reuse it for something else, they can. That's not what you want, on it.
well, I mean, I don't, you know, I know I've been into the building, you know, the back piece is in really rough shape, of course, that has to be all torn down, but I don't know if I'd have that stipulation. If somebody wants to, I mean, look what they did in the mills with the store. You know, so if somebody wants to, I don't know, what do you think, Matt?
Where is it?
It's on that page.
Yeah, no, I
by
know.
your thumb.
I'm looking for something else though.
Mhm.
Oh, okay. I would say, like, number 9, and I don't think it says it anywhere before that, but successful bidder, 45 days from recording of the deed to apply for demolition permit or building permit. To remodel it or whatever their intentions are. If they wanna tear it down, then give them the option to tear it down. If they wanna try and save it, then give them that option too. I mean, I know it's turned into kind of a fiasco up there on the hill with, what's the other one there? 11 something across from Bowling Road.
Oh, with the blue house?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this time, they don't get an extension, like that clown did. So, 45 days to get a demo permit or building permit, and then you have 1 year or whatever we're gonna set for a deadline to do one or the other.
Okay, no, I'm fine with that. You know,
Has it been condemned?
yeah,
Well, doesn't say much. The old fire station was condemned too.
I know.
So.
Okay, so.
I just think that,
would-
I think if someone's gonna buy it, I think it should be their choice. If they can meet the requirements of number 9, it should be their choice if they're, you know, taking this project on. If they wanna tear it down, fine. If they don't, if they wanna rebuild it, then they have stipulations. And, these stipulations, there's no give in number 9. That's it. So,
9 days.
Who's gonna judge that, Andy, if you don't mind me asking?
judge what?
If somebody comes in and buys it and says, okay, so within 45 days they go get a building permit, no big deal. How are you gonna enforce that it has to be finished, completed within a year?
Certificate of occupancy.
Yep.
With
Okay, then have that put in.
Right.
Yeah, so I mean, I agree with that, because the reason I did the demolition piece of it was because, you know, that sort of takes out all of the other,
That was the intent, right?
Yeah.
Originally with the problem 2 years ago or 3 years ago, we did all the planning board meetings and that everybody attended. The whole intention was to get that place cleared to sell to demo the lot. That was my understanding, and I could be wrong.
yeah, because, I mean, you know, maybe they tear it down, you can say, well, it's gotta be torn down within a year, but if they wanna remodel it, you know, then you have to, then you've got a different amount, you're probably looking at performance bonding, because you wanna have some mechanism like that to protect you, because if you don't have that, then you end up saying, well, you said you were gonna do this, or it's in writing, and you still end up having to go to court. You know, if you have a bond or a letter of credit or the cash and they don't, you know, perform, then you can actually call, you know, whoever the bond issuer is or letter of credit or whatever and say, you know, they haven't met this requirement, we're calling this amount. And, if you don't do that, then you end up, you know, just with potential litigation and fighting about it and just things getting delayed. So that's why I had done that, and I mean, again, if you know, if you wanna hold off on doing this and talk to whoever out there that you think might be interested in this or whatever, you can do that and you can revisit it Wednesday and make a final decision on it. But, you know, that was the reason I tried to make it clean.
Mhm.
Because, you know, here, if you got a dangerous building, or at least, you know, that's the opinion when you go out there and look at it, and you get inside of it and everything, it's, I mean, there might be some people out there that have the capacity to remodel something like that, but it's kinda like a complete rebuild, and, you know, I don't know, it's just not as clean, but again, that's a decision you have to make.
I recommend just leave it as is. I think that there's been enough debate over what to do with it.
Yeah.
All right, no, I agree. I agree. I mean, you know, everybody has their strong points, so,
I think there's just too much of a what if by letting it go
Yeah,
the
no,
other way.
I like to get it cleaned up.
Yep, we've been
know.
waiting a long time.
Yep. You all right with that, Matt?
Yeah, okay.
So, do you need a motion?
So we're leaving it then?
Yeah.
Okay. No, that's good, I mean, a good discussion, I
Okay.
can move forward with it.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else from any other selectmen comments? All set, Claudine?
Yes.
Matt?
Good.
Okay. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Before you adjourn, Andy, I just have one public comment.
Okay, yeah,
I
shoot.
already
Yeah,
told-
I apologize.
No, that's okay, this has been crazy, I kinda snuck it in.
Yeah.
I wanted to say a public thank you to, the police department and especially to Public Works. There was an incident last Saturday when we had that bad rain, thunderstorm, tornado stuff. I was coming down the Willie Road from the Wakefield end, and the bad corner that there is was completely washed across the road with mud and debris, and it was really bad, and I was in a car. My husband and Joey were on a motorcycle about 2 miles behind me. So I immediately called, and Public Works said, yes, you're the second person that's called, we're gonna get somebody right down there. I was able to call my other son and say, get a hold of your father, or I'm gonna wait at the top of the hill, cause you never would've seen it, where, you know where I mean, anywhere it comes
Yeah,
down.
sure.
It was bad, so I just wanted, I told Pat when he was here, that's why I came, I wanted to catch up with him. But a public thank you to Public Works for getting on it right away, making sure it was safe.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Excellent, thank you.
Any other public comments? I apologize.
No,
Okay, all right. You all set, Betsy?
I just wanted to make sure I
Okay.
got in there.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
For the adjournment? Aye, thanks.
Sorry, Andy, I wasn't trying to step on your toes about that demo stuff, but I was
No.
like involved in the original of what they were
Yeah.
gonna do with that. And
Yeah.
I actually, you'd have to ask, but I actually don't think even, one of the problems was that, it's not a buildable, parcel.
Yeah.
It either has something to do with the septic or something, cause remember Cumbies was looking at it?
Yeah,
To buy it?
yeah.
And they would have had to combine it or something like that. I
Mhm.
know it was a real crazy cost for
Yeah.
them.
Well,
But yeah,
Cumbies was never
Ernie,
Cummings was never really interested in it.
No, they were given their first refusal or something, cause it's
Thank
right
you.
above.
Sorry.
They weren't interested in it due to the fact that even if they did buy it, the only thing they could do with it is use it as parking.
Right.
Because they can't revamp that store like they did down the road because there's not enough room to expand the building
Yeah.
and
24.
expand the pumps and set them up the way that they should be set
Yeah,
up.
didn't they say all they could use